Good morning, dear students. How are you all? Today, we are going to learn nutrition in human beings from the chapter Life Processes of Class 10. Dear students, we had learned in our low classes that we, the living organisms, how we are different from the non-living organisms because our body exhibits many different life processes like growth and development, control and coordination, respiration, excretion, reproduction, and so many. Of course, for all these functions to function normally in our body, we need to supply fuel to this. What is that fuel to our body? It's nothing but the food. Who supplies the food to us? Of course, it is the plants, one and only the plants. Dear students, the plants are also defined as the producers because they undergo autotrophic mode of nutrition. They can synthesize their own food by using simple raw materials, isn't it? But animals, we are lack of chlorophyll, hence we cannot undergo photosynthesis process. We derive the necessary food from the plants, either directly or indirectly. Then, as we are going to learn one of the 9 processes here, it's about the nutrition process. What is nutrition is? Students, nutrition is defined as a process by which living beings procure food or synthesize it and change it into simple absorbable form by a series of biochemical processes. Of course, the nutrient has some component in it which have their respective functions, right? And they are called as, or these components are known as nutrients. The nutrients can be defined as a substance which an organism obtains from surroundings and use it for source of energy and provides the raw materials for the biosynthesis of products or body constituents of our body constituents. Dear students, let us now know that the animals can be divided into 3 groups on the basis of their food habits. They are herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Herbivores are those animals which eat only plants, like a goat, cow, deer, etc. Whereas carnivores are those animals which depend only on flesh or meat of other animals, like lion, tiger, lizard, etc. Omnivores are those animals which eat both the plants and animals. Example, we ourselves, the human beings, then dogs, crow, etc. Here, now, as we are dealing with one of the life processes called nutrition, let us know in animals, the nutrition undergoes with different steps. And these steps are ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and finally, addition process. Dear students, let us now know what are these steps are. Ingestion is the process of taking food into the body, whereas digestion is the process in which the food containing large insoluble molecules is broken down into small water-soluble molecules. Absorption is the process in which the digested food passes through intestinal wall into bloodstream, whereas assimilation is the process in which the absorbed food is taken in by the body cells and used for energy, growth, and repair. Whereas addition is the final step of this nutrition process in which the undigested food is removed from the body. Dear children, one thing to be known, food, it acts as a source of energy in our body and also it is helping in constructive functions like in growth and repairing of our body tissues. And then it also acts as regenerative, it also assisting in regenerative functions like, for example, Our body has the immune system which helps in fighting against the disease-causing germs. It's nothing but the immunity, dear children. Yes? So here, this regulative functions are through the hormones and enzymes or vitamins, etc. So totally, the food acts as a source of energy in our body. It is assisting in regulative functions of our body. It is also assisting in constructive functions of our body. Then here we have, as we are going to study in detail about the human digestive system, our nutrition process in human beings, here is the diagram which represents the human digestive system. Our digestive system always begins from the mouth. Then from there, this leads to the buccal cavity, which includes the different types of teeth, and then tongue. From there, it leads to the esophagus through a common passage, which is called as pharynx. It's a common passage for both food and air. From esophagus, then it leads to the stomach, from stomach to small intestine, and then to the large intestine. Dear students, not only these parts are assisting in our digestive system, there are certain glands as well. The very first gland which is assisting in this process is present in our buccal cavity. This is salivary glands. Then in the abdominal cavity, we have the liver, which is the largest gland of our body, and the second one is the pancreas, which is the second largest gland of our body. Here you can see the different types of teeth from our buccal cavity. They are incisors, canine, premolars, and molars. Dear students, in our lifetime, we have two sets of teeth. One is the milk teeth, which are only 20 in numbers, and by the age of 12, all these are replaced with the permanent teeth. And these teeth are of different types. As I said, incisor, canine, premolars, and molars. Incisors are used for biting the food, whereas canines for tearing, and premolars and molars for grinding the food. Next, here you can see the tongue with the taste buds present on the surface of it. There, these taste buds are helping in identifying the taste of bitter, acid, salt, and sugar. Dear students, see, every one of us can speak very well, isn't it? Who's assisting in this process? Of course, this is our tongue, right? Tongue, besides of this function, is also assisting in mixing the food with the saliva, which is secreted from the salivary gland, and moisten the food and makes it soft, where we can easily swallow the food into the esophagus. Dear students, now let us learn in detail. Just a small recap of this. The digestion of food begins in the mouth. Teeth cut the food into small pieces, chew, and grind it. The salivary glands in our mouth produce saliva. Saliva is a watery liquid which contains an enzyme, salivary amylase. What is it? Salivary amylase, which digests the starch. So first digestion of food begins from our buccal cavity with an enzyme called salivary amylase, which acts on the carbohydrate, one of the carbohydrate called starch, where starch is simplified into sugar, that is maltose. So starch to maltose. Who converts it? That is salivary amylase. Next, tongue helps in mixing the saliva with food. So here the digestion remains incomplete in our mouth, right? Next is the esophagus. The slightly digested food in the mouth is swallowed by the tongue and goes down the food pipe. When the slightly digested food enters the food pipe, the walls of food pipe start contraction and expansion movements. We call this type of movement as peristaltic movement, which is observed throughout the alimentary canal during the process of digestion. The peristaltic movement of food pipe pushes the slightly digested into the stomach. Stomach. The stomach is a J-shaped organ which is present on the left side of the abdomen. The stomach walls contain three tubular glands which secrete gastric juice. So stomach secretes gastric juice. The gastric juice contains three substances. They are hydrochloric acid and the enzyme pepsin and mucus. Dear children, let us study about the functions of all these three. The hydrochloric acid creates an acidic medium which facilitates the action of the enzyme pepsin. That this pepsin digests the protein. So salivary glands help in the digestion of starch, whereas the enzyme pepsin acts on the proteins. Hydrochloric acid also helps in killing the germs, which is in the food. Then the mucus helps to protect the stomach wall from its own secretion, that is hydrochloric acid. The partially digested food then goes from the stomach into the small intestine. Then, from the stomach, the partially digested food, after entering the small intestine, here in the small intestine, with the help of intestinal glands and its juices, the digestion completes. Dear children, small intestine is the largest part of the alimentary canal. The small intestine is very narrow and arranged in the form of a coil in our belly. One more thing to be noted, dear students. The length of small intestine differs in various organisms depending on their food habits. Here, the herbivores consumes the greens which have cellulose in it, whereas the cellulose is very hard to digest. So only these kinds of organisms will have longer small intestine, whereas carnivores they depend on flesh or meat and they contain fat in it which is easy to digest by the body. They have shorter intestine. The small intestine in human beings is the site of complete digestion of food. All the leftover undigested like carbohydrates, protein, fats, all get digested here. The small intestine receives the secretion of two glands from liver and pancreas. Liver secretes bile, which is a greenish yellow liquid and stored temporarily in gallbladder. And then bile performs mainly two functions. It makes the acidic food coming from the stomach alkaline so that pancreatic enzymes can act on it. Because pancreatic enzyme cannot function in the presence of acidic media. Bile salts break the fats present in the food into small globules, making it easy for the enzymes to act and digest them. Dear students, this process is known as emulsification of fat. Here we have the diagram where we can see how the stomach, the liver and the pancreas are interconnected, and finally it connects to the small intestine through duodenum. Duodenum is the initial stage of small intestine from stomach. Then the pancreas secretes the pancreatic juice. What? Pancreatic juice, which contains enzymes like pancreatic amylase, trypsin and lipase. What are they? Pancreatic amylase, trypsin and lipase. Where this amylase acts on starch, trypsin acts on proteins, and lipase, it acts on emulsified fats. Then the wall of the small intestine contains glands which secretes intestinal juice. Intestinal glands secretes intestinal juice. The enzymes present in it finally convert the proteins into amino acids, complex carbohydrates into glucose, where fats into fatty acids and glycerol. In animals' body, the food is stored as glycerol. In this way, the process of digestion converts the large and insoluble food molecules into small water-soluble molecules. Dear children, one more thing to be noted down. That is, we learn about villi in the next slide. Absorption process. The small intestine is the main region for the absorption of digested food. The inner surface of the small intestine has numerous finger-like projections. What do we call that? That is nothing but villi, which increases the surface area for rapid absorption of digested food. The digested food, which is absorbed through the walls of the small intestine, enters into our blood. Villi is surrounded by numerous number of blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. Where the lymphatic vessels absorbs the fatty acids and glycerol, and the blood absorbs the carbohydrates and proteins. Then, after the absorption process, it is assimilation process. Assimilation, where the blood carries digested and dissolved food to all the parts of the body, where it becomes assimilated as part of the cells and utilized for obtaining energy, building up new tissues, and the repair of old tissues. Finally, it is digestion. The unabsorbed food is sent into the large intestine, where more villi absorb water from this material. The rest of the material is removed from the body via the anus. Here in the rectal part of the large intestine, the undigested food is stored as solid waste called feces. The exit of this waste material is regulated by the anal sphincter. This is how the digestion process taking place in our body, that is in human beings, with the help of the human digestive system. That's all. Thank you.